Hi there, I am Jason,
Hello, everybody, and I'm Steve, or I was the last time I looked.
and you're not changed to Stephanie yet. Then is that
It's
is that next is that
only
next week?
alternate weekends. That's
Oh, only
alternate
okay.
weekends. Yeah, I don't want to overdo it.
When you said last time I looked, I thought you know you decided to
Yeah,
go for the whole 9 yards. Like this is a conversation we had a couple of weeks ago, but yeah,
I can't afford it. Is the bottom line of it. Have you seen the
absolutely.
price of that stuff?
I've got some scissors.
Absolutely crazy.
I've got some scissors. I can do it cheap.
Okay, I was
Scissors,
about to say, can you undercut it? Clearly, you can.
scissors and a bit of super glue. We can do it. No problem at all. cheaper than going to Thailand anyway.
Yeah,
Yes. So
definitely.
today we're talking about electric cars.
We
This is a
certainly
subject
are.
you brought up, so I'm going to let you kick off with it.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah, electric cars. So I know you're driving an electric car now, aren't you?
Where my wife is, I've got one. My wife's just had one. We've had it 2 weeks.
Okay, right, perfect. I've had mine coming up to 2 years now,
Right.
and it's not a Tesla, it's a Peugeot, and I looked for about a year before making the plunge to go to an electric vehicle, and I really did my homework, range, all the other bits and pieces and stuff like that. Can I live with it? What's the cost implications?
Mm.
Does it work? Is it financially? And then I test drove a few, and I was very tempted into the Model 3 Tesla. This is a couple of years back, bear in
Yeah.
mind, but very low. And anyway, then Peugeot said they were bringing out this 2008, and I
I
went along
like
for the
them. I
petrol
think they're a lovely
version.
looking car. They are. They're a lovely looking
It's a
car.
cracker. It's
Yeah.
a cracking car. As a car, I honestly can't fault it. But oh my goodness, I have a real love-hate relationship with this electric malarkey because it's
Do
pure
you?
electric. It's not a hybrid.
Yeah.
It's that or nothing. So I can be really smug, especially at this moment in time when fuel's a ridiculous price and everything else. And I'm just plugging in, and I keep a close eye on it. It cost me roughly 3.5 to 4 quid to charge it up, and I charge it up probably once every 4 days, I think.
What's your battery?
Something
What's
like that.
your battery range?
Well, this is where my hate bit comes with it.
Right. Okay.
So when I was doing my homework, Peugeot assured me it had a 220-mile range. So I
Yeah.
thought, well, I would take that with a bit of pinch of salt, and let's say 180 miles. I am lucky if I can get 120 miles out of it.
Right.
Lucky if I
Right.
can. So I found its limitations too many times, and I mean, stupid things like unless I know I can plug it in at the other end somewhere, I just don't take it. It spends
Right.
more time now sat on the drive, and we took around everywhere in Pam's little Fiat 500
Right.
than anything else. And it's kind of like, what? I don't see the point. It looks lovely sat on the drive, but so would a
Uh,
nice rose, wouldn't it? Really?
do you find there's more chargers now or less? Although there's more, I know there's more chargers, but do you find less available chargers because obviously more people have got electric cars?
You've
What's
hit
your
that on
take
the
on
head
that?
there. You've literally hit it on the head. So where I live, literally 5 minutes drive away is a Tesco's, a relatively big
Yeah.
Tesco's, and they were one of the first to introduce a pod point, a plug-in point. And so when I first got it, you could plug in for free there when you go shopping. You
Yeah.
see, so I used to go there and plug in. There was never anything around, ever, ever, ever. Now they've got about 4 points in there, and if you can get in there to plug in on any one of them, you're doing well.
Yeah.
So huge, yeah, big influx in the amount of people that are driving them. And yes, okay, they've increased the amount of charging points, but nowhere near enough. Just nowhere near enough. So mine, I suppose, was one of the very first generations. So I got it. I ordered it. I ordered it the beginning of 2020. So if you remember rightly, that's as we were going into
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
And it arrived in October
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
And back then, of course, they couldn't blame Brexit because that hadn't
No.
really come
Yeah.
around. But fortunately, one of the very rare few things to come out of COVID was a marvelous excuse for every big company that there is to be able to say, well, this is why it's not happened. It's not
Yeah.
our fault. It's
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it did rock up, and when it did rock up, yeah, the car is lovely. If it had a petrol engine or a diesel engine in it, then I'd say, do you know what, it's absolutely cracking. But it's they're lovely to drive because
Yeah.
it's really quiet and it's smooth and the acceleration's good on it.
Yeah.
But do you know what, Jay? I am looking to change it, and I am looking to change it for a classic.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
You charge on a 3-pin plug as well, don't you?
yeah, that's all it
And
is.
how
So
long does
so
that take you?
well, I plug it in overnight, and it probably takes about 7 hours, something like that.
Right. Okay.
But I never
So
let it get.
you never get
I,
too low.
no, I never let it get too low. So it has this thing, and anybody who's got an electric car will have experienced this with range anxiety, which for the first few months it like really bothered me. And
Yeah.
then in the end, another one, I just don't really care too much anymore. But it's dead bizarre because it's kind of got on the gauge there. It's got a number which tells you your range in miles, and it's also got like a fuel tank, exactly the
Yes.
same as a
Yeah.
fuel tank gauge, and it drops down. Well, they don't marry up. It
No.
bears no
Well, the thing is,
similarity.
I don't know if yours is like the Mini, but there's like 8 bars. So literally, it drops a bar at a time. So where your fuel tank goes down like gradually like that, it drops a bar. So literally, you're going in. I worked at sort of 12 mile blocks. So as soon as you drop into the next block, you've actually got the 11 miles left in the block, if you like. But you've dropped a whole block, and I think the whole point. So even when you've got nothing in the tank, you'll still have potentially 10 miles because that's how the blocks work. You with me?
Got you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Mine's not like that. Mine is a gradual, just like a gauge
Oh,
on
okay.
a fuel gauge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't drop in blocks. It just
goes
literally
down.
goes down, goes down, goes down.
I think the thing is with
Yeah.
range anxiety as well is the fact that, like, in a car, especially as being a little bit older, like the way cars used to be, you never let your car get lower than a quarter of a tank anyway, because it will bring all the shit into the engine, into the
Yeah.
carburetor, and all the rest of it with the old style cars. Whereas more modern cars, you can bring it down to sort of nothing, and it's not such an issue because fuel's a lot cleaner, and obviously they probably have more filters and stuff in the engine. But you know, I've got a petrol engine. I get down to 50 miles, and the little red light comes on. You know, you need to fuel up, and then you start to get a bit touchy. Whereas in electric cars, you've only got a normal range. Like for you, if you only get 140 miles out of it, that's a third of your tank, 50 miles. So it will give you the range anxiety. So, but I think it's different because if you can always go home and charge, you've always got that base.
Yeah.
Whereas you haven't got to look for a fuel station. You know, if you're somewhere that you don't know. So our experience. So we've only had an electric car for 2 weeks, as I said. And it's I've never driven one. I've been in them before, never driven one. The Minis I've driven before, and I've always loved the Mini. And particularly Mini came up on a really, I got an opportunity and a really good deal. And I said to Sarah, there's only one of these cars left at this price. We need to make a decision quick. And, you know, we need to, we literally ordered it back in October for delivery in May. And she wasn't really happy. She kind of like, you know, I don't know if it's the right car for me. The Mini's only got 138 mile range, which in real terms is probably about 100 miles.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
But for us, it's a second car.
Okay.
It's a commuter for Sarah. She only works in town. So into town in the day, back at, and if we go away anywhere far at the weekend, I usually take my car anyway because I like to drive my own car. So the range, although it was an issue because it was quite a low range, we were kind of not too worried about it, if you like. So, and to be fair, we charge on a 3-pin plug because it's a smaller battery. It doesn't take as long to fill up, and it costs about £4 to charge it.
Oh, okay.
Very similar to you, but I've been amazed at how many pod points are available for free. I didn't realise you could charge actually for free out in the open, which has been amazing. Even a place like Foss Park, we've managed to get on there and charge. And again, it's not because we need to top up; it's because it's free. And if you're walking around the shops and you can charge, you might as well charge.
Also, it's you can pretty much, well, you used to be able to, when all the car park was full, you could go there and know that you've got a parking space.
Yes,
because even though
normal
everybody
cars,
else is
Yeah.
But as I say, that's a bit different. And a little tip for you, I don't know if you know this, I don't know if it's the same at Foss Park, but certainly at Tesco here, you get 15 minutes free charging.
Yeah, but
And
then
then it automatically cuts off
yeah,
after 15 minutes.
it
But
doesn't.
you can
If you have
you can
if you have
go.
the app. No, if you no, if you have the,
Right,
no,
okay.
if you have the app, it doesn't turn off.
Oh, doesn't it?
No, if you get the app and actually say I'm on this charger, it stays on. Sarah charged
Oh,
for
well,
3 hours. 3 hours the other day. So you're missing a trick here, mate. If you get the
I
Pod
blooming
Point app,
am.
if you get the Pod Point app, first day we went to charge, I spoke to this chap who was charging next to me. I said, look, I've never charged before because we paid on the first one because there was two. It was a faster one
Right.
and we paid. And he said, oh, well, this one's free. I was like, I didn't know they were free. He said, no, if you get the app, it doesn't go off after 15 minutes. So you can charge for as long as you want.
Well, what I do is after 15 minutes, I
Go
just come
back.
back out, pull it out, push it back in again, and you go
Yeah.
again, you see.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So,
Now you
I'll do
know.
that.
So I've schooled you. You should be schooling me on how to do it. But
Well,
I've
well, it
schooled
just
you.
shows you that there you go. So I've had mine for nearly 2 years. I didn't know that. So it makes me wonder how many more people out there don't
Yeah,
know
probably
that. So
don't.
that's
Yeah,
top
probably
tip.
don't.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So have you got Zap Map as well?
No.
So get Zap Map, and that gives you all the different charging points and tells you how much they all are, and it also tells you if they're free or not. You know, as in
Oh,
nobody
that's
on there,
cool.
if there's no one on there. So
Oh,
that's
that's really
really,
good.
really worth having as well. So Zap Map and the Pod Point app, and I suppose there's lots of other different manufacturers who've got their own apps. So it might be worth
Yeah.
sort of downloading a few of them if you've got a different one in your area or where you work to use. So I mean,
That's
I think
cool.
the Mini is probably the best car I've ever. The Mini Electric is the best car I've ever driven, without a doubt. It's just
They're beautiful
fabulous.
to drive, aren't they?
The great
Anything
drive, the
electric.
power is amazing, and going back to the range thing as well. Being so, you live quite rural, don't you?
Yeah. Yes.
So you're going faster. So it works reverse of cars. I'm sure you're aware of this. So around town, they're more efficient, and once you get over 50 mile an hour, the range is not as good. So for us around town, so we will probably, because Sarah goes into town every day, we'll probably hit the range, the higher point of the range, because we're only traveling at 30 miles an hour. Another thing that a lot of people probably who've never driven electric cars don't know about you never use your brakes, do you?
I've actually got a thing on mine where I can program it not to even bother with the brake pedal. So,
really?
So when you come off the accelerator,
yes,
it literally puts the brakes on.
yes.
So
which recharges the battery, just so people don't, in case people don't know. So you take your foot off the accelerator and it starts to brake very quickly, and that just sort of puts power back into the battery, which is amazing. So for me, I want an electric car, my next car.
That's good. Well, do you know
but
what?
I want a bigger range. I want at least a 250 range, at least.
Check out the new Genesis. I mean, that I think is
that.
one of the most beautiful looking cars.
The G60, GV60.
Yeah.
Expensive though, very expensive.
Start life at 54, I think it is.
Yeah, they are very, very expensive. Yeah.
But what a lovely looking car.
Well, I think all the Koreans are doing well. I mean, the Kia EV6, the Hyundai Iconic 5, and the Genesis. They're all sort of sister companies, aren't they? But I think they are the kind of best. Some of the best models on the market. I mean, Tesla is amazing. I mean, the Tesla is amazing, but there's so many of them now. They just look so samey. You know, when they first came out, I thought that looks really, really futuristic. But no, they're just like, it's like, you know, remember the first Mini Metro? The new Teslas are going to be like the first Mini Metro. They look really futuristic when they first come out, and then they end up looking like a roller skate.
That's really funny. I was going to compare it to the Sierra when the Ford Sierra first came out. Yeah, you know, like the dead futuristic jelly mold, and then you're dead right. Every rep in the world had one, and it was like, oh, everywhere. And suddenly they don't look so unusual.
But I think with the Tesla, because obviously the self-driving is the next phase. And the Teslas are ahead of the game on that. Very much so, but I think I mean, if you think where we are with electric cars now, it's very new.
Oh yeah,
and I think in 20 years' time, when you talk about, you know, I had to charge my car every 3 days and plug it in, people will be like, "What? You plugged it in? You actually have to plug your car in?" Because there's so much more technology. You know, you know how you charge your phone on a pad now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a company that do that with the vehicles. You can get this pad that fits under your car, and I can't remember what country's in now, and they put the so it's for taxis really, and they put the charging pads in the lay-bys where the taxis queue, so the taxis can
But in
actually
that
get a
case,
charge on the self-charging pad, so it's not
then
plugged
why
in.
can't they just put that underneath the road surfaces so you're constantly being charged as you're going along?
But again, it's how do they charge? How do you get charged for that? You know, how do they how
Like a road
expensive
tax, I
how
suppose.
expensive would it be, and would it be necessary to charge it as you go along? Because the other thing is
See,
that the
do you
changing
remember a program
batteries.
called Logan's Run? Do you remember a program
Yes,
called Logan's Run?
yes,
Right.
yeah, I do.
And very futuristic, and it's incredible. A lot of these old futuristic things kind of almost predicted a big
Yeah,
bunch of stuff that happens. So that was charged by solar panels on the
yeah,
roof and the bonnet, and and the boot of the cars. So they now have not only do they have the technology to make flexible solar panels,
yes.
so they could do that, but believe it or not, there's now a solar paint. So it doesn't even look
Okay.
like a solar panel. That the paint itself is able to convert the energy and store it. So why don't they have stuff like that? I don't understand. It's all a con, Jay. Let me tell you now.
Okay.
Why do you think fuel is so expensive? They want you to go out and buy electric vehicles. That's the bottom line of it.
So they put the electric up.
Eh?
So they can put the electric up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the solar paint. I've seen a car where I don't think it's solar paint, but the panels are actually in the paintwork, and they've literally put them on the doors, on the bonnet, on the roof, every single surface. It's only a little car. I think it was like a prototype, and they reckon
Yeah,
that it's going to be sort of pretty much 100% solar. You know, you can drive it as you
brilliant.
charge as you drive. But again, it's not going to work as well in a country like this. We've got solar lights, and in the summer they're absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously we've got lots of daylight, lots of sunshine, but in the winter there's day on for like next to no time. So I don't think solar in the UK is ever going to be a functional option.
Well, then when you think about it,
well, I think the thing is going to change is the battery capacities and how much electricity they take to charge them. There's a new type of battery that's being exploited at the moment or developed. It's called a nuclear battery.
oh hello.
So current batteries last about 10 or 12 years, I think, or 8 years that they're sort of most useful. So a nuclear battery, so basically what it does, it takes nuclear waste. Now this particular nuclear isotope cannot be disposed of. So at the moment, they put it in barrels and they bury it in these bunkers underground because they can't get rid of it. There's nothing to get rid of it. But this guy's come up with this solution where they take a small amount of nuclear material, this nuclear waste, they encase it in a man-made diamond, and it can actually carry a charge. So they encase the nuclear material in a man-made diamond, and apparently as a battery it will last for 24,000 years.
Wow. Oh, just about see us out, I think.
And I think and obviously the charging, but everything's going to change. You know, the batteries will change, everything will change. And I was watching again on television, they're reckoning about 3 years' time, stage 2 of self-driving cars will be allowed. But in this country, what it will be is you'll only be allowed to use your self-charging mode if you're on the motorway doing less than 38 miles an hour.
Well, that's illegal. You can't be on the motorway doing less than 38 miles an hour.
It means if there's traffic. So if you're in a traffic jam and you're doing 38 miles an hour, you can put the self-driving mode on. You can all your Netflix and everything will come on your infotainment on the infotainment. You'll be able to watch television as you're driving. But as soon as the traffic starts to speed up, then I mean, even like now, if you're in a traffic jam and you're stood still, it's illegal to go on your phone, isn't it? Still, because you're not paying attention to the road, even though you're not moving anywhere. But that's stage 2. But in San Francisco, they actually have self-driving cabs at the moment.
Johnny Cabs.
Yeah. Johnny Cabs, yeah, absolutely. They've got self-driving cabs in San Francisco, and there's companies developing these self-driving taxis that actually have no steering wheel. So people go in them and you sit, it's facing each other, and they're actually in development. So they're only in sort of dedicated areas at the moment, but they're all being trialled. And you know, self-driving cars. I mean, our kids, our grandkids, probably will never need to drive.
No, I'm sure they won't. No, I'm quite
Yeah.
sure. Do you know, I look at Charlie and I think, I wonder if you will actually ever take a driving test.
Yeah,
I
'cause you don't
wonder.
need. Well, there was
Yeah.
a lady on. I was watching this thing on television, and I was on YouTube, and a lady was saying she's partially sighted, and she said, you know, self-driving cars is just going to open up a whole new thing for me. Although
Of course,
the thought of a blind person behind the wheel of a car is a little bit worrying. But I think I mean, obviously, it's not going to be in the first stage, but there will be a stage where they probably say, well, you know, self-driving cars are safer, and people aren't allowed to drive. I mean, they might come to that point.
you never
We don't want
know.
anyone to drive.
No. Do you think though that the whole thing that will ever be like us going back to the solar charging? Because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just a cynical pants, and I just think that everything is done for the good of big corporations or the government trying to make money. I
Absolutely.
genuinely.
Absolutely.
So we've all heard the
Mm.
stories about people have come up with an invention where, well, not perpetual motion, but where vehicles run on next to nothing, and the big oil companies have bought it off them and literally chucked it in the bin. So that
there's stories of people being popped off because there's a theory that electricity can be sucked out of thin air, generated from thin air. So if you imagine the world is spinning at a 360 miles an hour or something, so the Earth is consistently spinning. So theoretically, there is enough kinetic energy for electricity to be pulled out of thin air. And if you look online enough, there's enough conspiracy theories to say that this technology has actually been invented that actually sucks electricity out of thin air. So you don't even need a battery because the electricity is already there, the power is already there. And if you look, there's things where people have come up with stuff and have been killed. I mean, I don't know how true that is, but yeah. So the theory, I think Nikola Tesla actually came up with the philosophy that because he had the big Faraday cage, there's a picture of him in the big Faraday cage with all the electrical charge going around and stuff like that. And the theory is the electricity is there. It's just that we haven't figured out how to harness it, or have we? Because if everyone had free electricity,
wow,
I mean, that would be a game changer. That would be a game changer for everything. So all you got to do is invent an engine that's got some, you know, buy the engine that generates the energy. There's no need for batteries and anything. So that would be an absolute game changer. But it'd be nice thought, free energy, because that's what I think it was Nikola Tesla who wanted free energy for everybody. But like you say, I mean, the billions and billions of dollars. I mean, the Saudis now, you know, they've been criticised for putting the price of the fuel up, but ultimately this is pushing us far more towards electricity. And
of course it is.
You know, and Saudi was a very poor country until oil was discovered. You know, all those kind of eastern countries were very poor. Then all of a sudden, they're the richest countries in the world. That's going to dry up. You know,
of course it is. It's not sustainable. Absolutely. Well, and I think that their reserves are starting to run a little bit dry now, aren't they, as we speak?
Absolutely. But we still need oil for plastics and things like that, although they should be banned. A lot of the single-use plastics should be banned. And I think they will be banned.
I'm going off on a tangent now, but you've just made me think of something. And I remember saying this to a classroom full of people 2 or 3 years ago, and they all laughed at me. They didn't get it when I said, just bear in mind that everything around you, all your technology, the clothes you wear, the house you live in, the car you drive, everything started out life either being dug up or grown.
Yeah.
And they all burst out laughing. This is you telling me my Toshiba ended up being dug out of the ground. I said, where do you think the materials came from to build it in the first place?
Absolutely.
No, what do you think? You can't just manufacture something out of nothing. You have to start with something. I said, so the only resources that we have, you either dig it out the ground in the form of a metal of some description, or it's grown, hemp or whatever it is, and that's how you start with it. And it took me about half an hour to explain to them about how that was, and then it was like there was all complete silence. It was like, never realised that.
The thing is, you've played Jenga, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've played Jenga, you know, you pull the blocks out the bottom and stick them on the top and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
We're doing that with our planet. You know, but they're drilling at the bottom of the oil. They're sucking all this oil out of the bottom, and you wonder why we have more earthquakes now than we ever did, and tsunamis and all this kind of stuff. Because we're playing Jenga with the planet. It's gonna. No brainer.
Do you know what? You're dead right. We are slowly but surely ruining it through our own greed. And you know the biggest irony? You speak to most people, Jay, and I mean most people. There's one or two exceptions that spring to mind, and frankly, we both know them. But most people, if they were offered a life without all the trappings of so-called success and all the other bits and pieces, who were able to just, there you go, there's a croft, there's a field, all live in harmony, grow your stuff, your neighbor will grow something else so that you're never without anything. Most people would jump at that.
I don't know if they would. I think most people like the idea. I think most people like the idea of it, but they go, I like the idea of that sort of thing. But then also, I do like the kind of look to the future, kind of electric hover cars, the Jetsons, Star Wars, and all that kind of malarkey. So there's part of me that I've got feet in both camps with that. Really, I do like technology. I love the fact that
both is a valid option.
But the fact that you're so far away from me, and we're talking like that, and this would not have been possible not too long ago.
No,
we're gonna next topic is talking about growing up in the 70s and 80s, and for anyone who's kind of under 30, it's probably gonna be a little bit of an eye opener. For anyone who's sort of over 40, is going, oh, I remember that. But so we are completely gone off subject now. So we will close this one, I think, with electric cars, because we've said our piece, and we've got two very different. Obviously, you've had it for a while. You've got a different opinion to me, and I'm quite new to it. But I think our needs were different. Like I say, this was a second car for me, for us, and it wasn't the range isn't as important. But I know that if my next car, it's either probably going to be electric with a good range, a plug-in hybrid, or a petrol engine. But I mean, why how plug-in hybrids? The premise behind a plug-in hybrid is that they have a 30-mile electric range on a plug-in.
Yeah.
The premise being that most people don't go over 30 miles in a day. So the idea with a plug-in hybrid is you plug it in every night, you charge the electricity, and you use mostly electricity. But then if you do have the option, if you do need to go further afield, you've got the option, and it will recharge.
I was going to say my encapsulating nutshell on this one would be, if you are looking at something like this, then I would look at a hybrid, because it just gives you that little bit of extra possibility. That said, range is changing all the time, but so do your needs. So they're not cheap, still not cheap, the electric cars. Like when the old digital watches first came out. They were a ridiculous amount of money. And then in the end, you got them in a lucky bag, or they were giving away at petrol stations. But have a good look. Your needs personally do change as well as. So in your instance, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but in your instance, let's just say in 6 months' time, something happens and your lovely wife has to go and work at another place. And it's further away. Do you see what I mean? So things do change. But it's a good thing. But look carefully at the future, not just the here and now, if you're going to go for an electric.
And there is actually one other point. Obviously, on the Zap map, you can see how much electricity is. So I've kind of done a little bit of a research at the different stations and the rapid charges, the super fast ones. So if you were doing a longer commute and using an electric car and needing to go on a top up, and I know a lot of the rapid ones will charge in 20 minutes now. They'll charge from 20% to 8% in 20 minutes, which is amazing. But you're paying 58, 60 pence a kilowatt hour. And if you look at that in charge of miles and petrol, that's pretty much the same as the pump was before all this started. You pay about two-thirds what you're paying on petrol now on electricity. So it's actually not that cheap. The free ones are only 7 kilowatts, so 4 hours, which is no good on a long journey. If you're going to stop, you can't stop for 4 hours to charge your vehicle, so you want a rapid charger. So once you start going into, if you're doing a lot of longer miles with electric car, it's not that cheap at all.
It's not. And then bear in mind the outlay of the car in the first
Yeah.
place, way
Yeah.
exceeds the equivalent of a petrol.
Yeah.
The only real saving grace with being pure electric is there is zero road tax, I suppose.
For now, but that'll change.
Yeah, of course it'll
change.
change. It's going to have to change.
It'll start to, as soon as we start to creep into getting all electric cars, it'll be based on the value of the car again. Because it can't be based on the emissions. So the more expensive your car is, the more road tax you're going to pay.
So here we go. So my suggestion is a donkey and a cart. That's the way you can go.
Or we just go backwards and do the old Flintstones thing. Stick the feet out the bottom, yabba dabba do.
Well, we've gone full circle now, because I am seriously now looking at a classic as opposed to anything else at the minute. A reliable one, but they're free tax, they're free MOT.
Yeah.
The insurance on them, frankly, is if you've got 50p in your back pocket, you're probably going to get some change. And as long as you look after it, you'll more than likely get your money back, or it might even have increased in value a little bit.
Or a bit of both. Get a Sinclair C5.
There you are.
Electric, bit of retro classic, pedals as well, I think. So we've got the Flintstone thing going on.
Well, that needs to be revived. Bring them back. Somebody out there needs to be remaking these Sinclairs then and launch them again. And I think you'll do very well.
Good man. Right, we're signing off. Until next time, my name's Jason. Goodbye.
Steve Trott.